be setting the stage for Damascus, Syria, the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world, to cease to exist. It could happen potentially very soon. There is little doubt. In my humble opinion, one of Israel's first moves in response to an existential threat to its survival posed by weapons of mass destruction will by necessity be to demonstrate its absolute willingness to do whatever it must to ensure the survival of its nation and its people. And that, believers in Bible prophecy, could spell doomsday for Damascus. Bible prophecy makes it clear that Iran is going to remain militarily viable until the prophesied battle of Gog and Magog, foretold in Ezekiel 38:39. But Syria, it doesn't appear the Syria we're presently familiar with is going to be a participant. In due season, we'll understand why that seems to be the case, but from where we are right now, it isn't hard for me to imagine Syria's role as a troublemaker in the Middle East being greatly diminished potentially very soon. Keep looking up, church. Jesus Christ is Lord, and he is coming soon. I happen to believe that. Now, this is what's interesting about that, because you see, again, there's an interconnecting that takes place, and I want to take it a step further and again present this scenario. And again, I'm not dogmatic about this, but it is very interesting, and I believe it's very plausible that the destruction of Damascus may very well be the event that brings about the fulfillment of another prophecy, this one in Daniel. Daniel 9:27. What's Daniel 9:27? It's a prophecy about the Antichrist confirming, signing a 7-year peace agreement with Israel. Interesting. I happen to think that the prophecy in Isaiah is the nexus for the prophecy in Daniel, which in turn becomes the nexus for the prophecy in Ezekiel. Now, I know that some of you are looking at me like dogs, not that you're dogs, but you look at me like dogs, that confused kind of look. And I need for you to stay with me because, again, I believe this is a very plausible scenario. See, what would then create an environment geopolitically that would, in effect, propel the Antichrist onto the scene to bring about peace and security? Oh, the destruction of Damascus. That would certainly seem to fit in terms of what it would mean to the international community. There would be a call, a clarion call, and a crying out for something, for someone to come on the scene and bring peace because of what Israel has done. So it is very possible that, again, this becomes the link or the catalyst or the nexus, if you will. So Israel destroys Damascus, which fulfills Isaiah's prophecy, propelling the Antichrist to sign this 7-year peace agreement. Now, this becomes, I believe, very possibly the catalyst for Ezekiel's prophecy, because if there's one thing about the Ezekiel 38 prophecy, which prophesies about this alliance of nations, all of whom are Islamic, coming together and attacking Israel. By the way, Syria is not in that alliance of nations, which again tells me that Isaiah 17 needs to be fulfilled before Ezekiel 38. But there's a problem with Isaiah 17 being fulfilled before Ezekiel 38, because in Ezekiel 38 we're told that Israel will be dwelling in peace, in security, in safety, and there will be no more walls, which implies that Israel will have at some time erected walls, which they did in the year 2000 with the Intifada. For those of you who went to Israel with us, remember trying to get in and out of Bethlehem? Especially with an Arab in your bus. Yeah, that was fun, wasn't it? When that, that Israeli soldier came in and searched the bus, and I'm crawling underneath the seat. Hey, shalom. How are you? Aloha. Yeah. No. But it was interesting because, and we couldn't even go into Bethlehem without an Arab bus driver. We had to leave Naphtali there at the, the wall, because there's that entry gate. And you have to understand that Israel now is a walled city. I mean, it is full of walls that they've had to put up to keep these, suicide bombers from coming and taking their cars and pulling up alongside of buses and blowing themselves up and killing all of these Jews. And when Israel started putting this wall up, the suicide bombings began to decrease and eventually have become non-existent. Well, I find it interesting that you'll find these walls mentioned in Ezekiel's prophecy, and it's found in verse, I'm getting ahead of myself, verse 4. It says, I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaws, and bring you out with your whole army, your horses, your horsemen, fully armed, and a great horde with large and small shields, all of them brandishing their swords. Will you put that putting of the hook in their jaws in your hip pocket for just a moment? Because I believe it all ties in together ever so perfectly as it relates to this prophecy, especially in verse 11, where it talks about these walls. Listen to what verse 11 says in Ezekiel's prophecy, chapter 38. And thou shalt say, I will go to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely. All of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. So in other words, something has to happen that will give Israel that sense of security, that sense of, quote, peace and security, and they will bring down those walls. And I believe that that event is the signing of the 7-year peace agreement by the Antichrist, fulfilling Daniel 9:27. Now here's where it gets interesting. Pull the hook out of the hook in the jaw out of your hip pocket for just a moment. I need to back up here. Do you have any idea how many slides I deleted because I realized that we were going to be fighting the clock again today? Think about this now. An Israeli strike against and the destruction of Damascus, Syria, in concert with a peace agreement, may in fact be the very hook in the jaw of Ezekiel's prophecy. Now, stay with me with the progression. It seems to fit that you have this attack on Damascus. Damascus is destroyed. Syria is now out of the picture. And here comes the Antichrist signing the peace agreement. Israel brings their walls down. They're dwelling in this pseudo-security. And now here comes the hook. It's the perfect optimum time for this alliance of nations, all of whom are listed by their ancient names in Ezekiel 38, to come against and attack Israel. Why? Because they're dwelling securely. The walls are down. The prophecies are interconnecting one with another, and they're fulfilling one with the other. See, if Israel believes that she finally has peace, and make no mistake about it, Israel will do anything and stop at nothing in order to achieve peace. They want peace. They want to dwell securely. They don't want to have the threats from their neighboring Arab countries, especially from Syria, not to mention Iran. But I think that this could create the very hook that Ezekiel talks about that brings these nations against Israel. What's the bottom line? I believe that the rapture is closer than any of us think. I think that it could happen at any time. And the rapture has to happen before the 7-year tribulation. So where does the rapture fit into this scenario? Well, the Antichrist, Thessalonians tells us, cannot be revealed until the church is removed. So if the Antichrist comes on the scene and fulfills Daniel 9:27 and signs that 7-year peace agreement, then that means that the rapture has to happen before that, because the church has to be removed before the Antichrist is revealed. So if that's the case, and it looks like things are heating up, and these prophecies could be fulfilled at any time, how much closer does that bring the rapture? What's the rapture? The rapture is Jesus Christ coming as a thief in the night and taking us, his bride, his church, out of this world